in the morning. Super Bowl team and now these haters salty.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to IE Sports Radio. I'm Niners Jess, along with Ty Austin, Maddie B, and your girl Bex. We are the East Coast Red and Gold. It is Wednesday, March 6th. We are exactly 1 week away from free agency. The franchise tag deadline was yesterday. We will discuss, but first, how y'all doing?
Doing good. Surviving East Coast rain.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Day 20 of the off season, please send Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, which, by the way, is an all brisket jerky that has gluten-free options, no MSG, no sodium nitrate, low in sugar, and high in protein. And of course, is some of the best jerky that you can get your paws on. You can find out more at planetjerky.net. Brisket Beef Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other level. Also, make sure to follow IE Sports Radio on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And check out the website, iesportsradio.com/East Coast Red and Gold for sports news, the IE Sports Radio blog, and much, much more. Thank you for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
Awesome. And make sure you like and subscribe to us. What's up, Taryn? Good to see you.
What's up, Taryn?
All right, so let's chat a little defensive coordinator. I had said last week that it was a little underwhelming that, you know, if Nick Sorensen was a less intriguing candidate in Nick Sorensen, but they wound up going in-house with him. As for the defensive coordinator role, they also bring in Brandon Staley, who I believe will be the brain power. And they also brought in KJ Wright as the assistant linebacking coach and defensive quality control assistant. Brandon Staley also assistant head coach.
Yep.
So guys, your thoughts?
Go ahead, Becca.
Well, I mean, I think it could go either way, right? Like we've had great success with internal candidates and promoting them. And I think the intriguing part about Sorensen is he came from Seattle. He knows our system. He knows the core of our defense. He also has a great rapport with the team and the guys. And I think that was a piece that was very much missing under Wilks. I think when Wilks really got to take the reins and start to implement his program, the wheels started to fall off, right? We saw this deep decline. We went from the number 1 defense to the number 12. So I think they like the attractiveness of of promoting from within. He must have a great rapport with the team and the guys. And he's part of the reason I understand that their takeaways and their turnover. I guess he held meetings about how to take away the ball. So he has some great ideas on some of these defensive ends, but you can see that they plugged the backstop. They put Staley in there on purpose. I have honestly been stupid busy, so I haven't done a lot of looking him up or thinking about him as he fits in for us. But I think one thing that stands out to me is when we played the Chargers, how decimated they were and still could have won that game. And I think his ideas and the way he plays and some of his disguises and approaches, especially against AFC teams, is something attractive to us to bring to the table to be able to overcome some of these hurdles in the AFC. I mean, I guess my one concern is, does Brandon Staley overshadow Sorensen and overstep that and undermine his credibility as defensive coordinator? Otherwise, I mean, I see all positives with having him there. I guess it's a matter of approach with that and how the team handles internally who's the boss, you know? So.
Yeah, I could see how you said, you know, Brandon Staley overshadowing Nick Sorensen. But I don't, to me, from what I've seen out there, it's in a negative way because it is Brandon Staley. It is, you know, they gave up so many points against the Raiders. So I've seen it in that light. But I can also see where, okay, Brandon Staley is the bigger name. Everyone's like, who is Nick Sorensen? Nice guy, by the way. He was on the elevator in DC.
Of course he was.
And isn't Brandon Staley a Vic Fangio guy too?
Yes.
Did he come from?
He is.
He's underneath that tree.
Fangio?
Yeah.
So there's 6 degrees of separation there too, a little bit. So I think they kind of know a little bit about him in probably a better way than we do, football way.
Yeah, for sure. Ty, what do you think?
Yeah. So last week I talked about how they're doing all these interviews and kind of building up their roster, right, of coaches, because we know how they just seem to leave for one way or another. So you build up your roster. Well, they brought a whole roster in to have coaching depth now. So I see why they made all these moves. I'm seeing the vision. Sorensen, Rebecca hit the nail on the head. He's an in-house guy. They love to promote from within, is what we've done previously. I'm sure they've met with him, got some ideas from him, saw that he's on the same page of how the defense should be run, keeping things the same. So they trust him there. And like Rebecca said, he knows all the players. The rapport is there. I'm sure he can communicate with them and vibe with them and tell them exactly what he needs, and they will take that instruction. So that's in place. The Staley hiring, I look at it as kind of like how Kyle had all these pieces in place to help formulate an offense. Brandon Staley is a part of that now. Like he's ran a defense. We know he, studied under Fangio. He's got experience there. So he can go back, watch game film of opposing teams, key on tendencies, know what they like to do, and come to Nick and say, hey, I found this. When they're in this formation, they like to do this. When they're in this formation, they like to do that. We can attack them in this way. And Nick's like, okay, let's put something together. It's all part of the plan. And then you got KJ coming in, a former player. He's just recently retired, like 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So he's fresh off the field. And we all know he was a smart player, played with Seattle a bunch of times, bounced around at the end of his career.
Mm-hmm.
But once again, a guy with fresh eyes who just came off the field, who can help out in a certain way. So we got this brain trust, that defense going on that should help us for the long haul. And, as we move along, we can help build these guys up in some way, right? If for some reason the league falls in love with Nick Sorensen and takes him away in 2 years, well, we got 2 other guys back there that we can fall back on, right? That just seems to be the way it works in 49er land.
Yeah.
So I like the moves overall. I'm thinking I'm seeing the vision, and hopefully that's what comes to fruition.
And it wasn't lost on to me that KJ is also a Seattle guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They also work with Robert Saleh. They brought that whole Seattle defense to us. And so these guys all are very familiar with our core defensive strategy. So
Exactly.
And he also worked with Nick Sorensen.
Mm-hmm.
He also,
that's true.
yeah.
So you see the whole
Not
correlation.
Play for him,
Yeah.
The one thing that I liked with the KJ Wright hiring was David Lombardi had said when we played a few years back already, when we played against Seattle and Kyle Shanahan was calling run plays at KJ Wright, and he kept saying to Shanahan on the sideline, you know what, run the other way. Don't keep running at me. He was like trash talking to Shanahan.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of wonder if that came up in the interview process.
I'm sure
it did. Yeah.
Go ahead, Maddie.
I mean, I hope it did. Like, I really hope that was kind of how it led off. I'll be interested to see, like, they still haven't really fleshed out how the whole thing went yet. Way too many people went with that one tweet that, he contacted Belichick, he did this, did that. Like, I still haven't seen a story on that yet. You know what I mean? So when it comes to sourcing and things of that nature, I kind of look for those sorts of things. Haven't really seen a bunch of it yet. That happened, so be it. That's what it is. But I think this is really probably what they expected all along. They tried to put the seeds out there early for Staley. And then it kind of, you didn't hear anything for Staley after a few weeks because, again, it's different. Coordinating and coaching are completely different animals. And if you're going to have somebody who is that good and that innovative in drawing up game plans and figuring out how to get people coached up in that weird ass 2020 off season, then I think he'll do well. And I think there's no better person than Nick Sorensen to learn from, right? And at the end of the day, if you look at this team, their history, their recent history of getting promoters, coordinators promoted. Is pretty good outside of last year, right? And what was the difference from last year? They got somebody from outside of the organization. Whatever happened, however it happened, whatever it is, like that broke that streak, right? Of that guy, of that defensive coordinator getting a head coaching job, basically. So they're just trying to get the streak back together is really what it boils down to. I think this also kind of reminds you of, like, remember when they hired Anthony Lynn from the Chargers after he got under the Chargers, and he kind of came in, and this allows them to have that sort of same deal for the defense. I think Kyle at the end of the day just felt like he spent way too much time on the defensive side of the ball last year, right? And I don't want him spending any time on the defensive side of the ball. Like, I would prefer he didn't have to do that. Exactly. Like we were talking about the stupid, up at the booth, down in the booth, down on the sideline thing, right? That's when I think we first all started to realize, like, there's some sort of, like, you know what I mean? And it just wasn't synced up that they wanted it or needed it. So big year for this defense, big year for this franchise. And, go Nick Sorensen, go Brandon Staley. Let's get this thing back on track a little bit.
Yeah, there definitely was a disconnect.
The bar's high, though.
What's that?
Number 3 in points. That's the bar.
Yeah.
Number 3 in points allowed.
Even with that disconnect, right? Like, the number was still pretty wild. So you're basically no pressure, but you got to be number 1 or number 2. And Nick Bosa
exactly. That's the bar.
Yeah.
That's the improvement bar.
Nick Bosa better have more than 10.5 sacks next year too. Let me tell you.
If you are just joining us, we are talking about the coaching moves the 49ers have just recently done. Talking about Kyle Shanahan. What's that?
I said that was very smooth. I like that.
Thank you.
Kudos to you. I know, right?
As far as Kyle Shanahan, Maddie, you touched on this as far as not being, too involved with the defensive side of the ball. Do you think with these hires now, this allows him to refocus on what he needs to focus on?
Yes, if all goes according to plan. Now, if by week 6 we're worried about if Brandon Staley's on the field or if Nick Sorensen's on the field as opposed to up in the booth or not in the booth or not, then guess what? Go ahead and get the suspenders on because the hip waders are about to be needed again, right? Because that's pretty much how this is going to go. But for now, I think this is exactly what he wanted. He wanted somebody in there that he could trust, and he trusts those 2 guys, right? I think the players trust those guys. I mean, I don't know if they trust Staley or not, but like they trust Sorensen. So I think this is kind of a way too for them to not only make themselves happy, but they can also kind of make the players happy, right? So I'm guessing the players are probably lobbying for Sorensen. Even the players in Wilkes seem to have some sort of disconnect at some sort of times, but I wonder if maybe they were lobbying for that, for have somebody in house pop up and do it. So. Just out of that fear from having somebody come from the outside who used to be a head coach. So this is a way to get everybody happy. Kyle gets somebody in there that he trusts to oversee everything. And the players get somebody that they trust will make them be better. You know what I mean? So I think
Oh,
This is it. You know what I mean? Away we go. And that allows the maestro to go back and concentrate on making the music, right? So maybe get some of the bugs out of the system, get some of the communication issues out of this offensive line. Figure out which offensive linemen need to be back and which offensive linemen need to be on the bench, right? Like,
Exactly.
Maybe get some more depth in that wide receiver core, some upper echelon depth in that wide receiver core, so that if Debo does miss a game, the offense doesn't grind to an absolute friggin' halt. So, things like that.
Well,
that might be something to look at too. You know what I mean? There may be quite a few different benefits from this whole scenario. So,
well, that's the thing I'm looking for. All right, if Kyle doesn't have to worry about the defense and he can trust those guys to just, hey, run defense, I'll give you my input if I want to. And now I can focus on the offense. Now he can completely focus on the offense. And now it won't be, I got this Debo game plan. Oh, Debo's hurt. Well, I'm just going to Ron Burgundy this thing no matter what. And we saw that. He called the Debo play. Debo's hurt. Jawan Jennings runs a sweep. Hello? Get your head in the game. The guy you called the play for isn't on the field.
that should have been a large wake-up call for everybody.
Like, Kyle, come on.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
where are
Debo's
you?
not there. Okay, let me pivot. Let me go to the CMC game plan, the Ayuk game plan, the Kittle game plan. There's plenty of other weapons on the field that you can choose from. So I want to see him start to evolve that way. All right, I got this game plan. It's for this guy. He got hurt, whatever. Okay, I can pivot. It's cool. I planned for this. That was plan A. I got plan B right here. Let's make it happen. We're still going to score 30. No problem. That's what I'm looking for. And we saw plan A get smushed a lot of times this season, and the pivot just kind of wasn't there, and we were waiting for it. We got to see that throughout the season. So I'm hoping Kyle's free to just run the offense, and it'll be a well-oiled machine.
And so what happens if it's not? What happens if there's some animosity with Brandon Staley, or, even D'Amico Ryans stumbled out of the gate, right? Year one. So if we get into, say, week 4 or 5 and defense isn't performing quite as well as we'd like it to, because Sorensen's never been a DC before and he's struggling, are we concerned that we may pull a trigger too soon and not give him a fair shot? Or we're looking at our Super Bowl window closing in with our guys, and do we make hasty, rash decisions that really, really are a detriment more than a help? There's that side of the coin that I consider too. New DC, they don't always come out of the gates firing and turn into these amazing head coaches as we keep milling them out. It's usually a 2-year process, right? Year 1, they have a little struggles, get there, find their groove. Year 2, they are lights out. So if we bring in head coach guy who's going to be father figure shadowing Sorensen and helping him, does that undermine his credibility? Does that make it worse? Does that help? What if there's struggles out of the gate the first few games? Do we make some crazy Ivan decision and and really, really start to now the negative energy really starts to manifest, right? We saw a little of that petty stuff after the Super Bowl, where we never saw that all year. We haven't seen that on this team in a while, where the finger pointing happens. If we start to have a negative, and have a little bit of a struggle or a negative start on the defense, do we see frustrations manifest quickly? And are we concerned that could translate into an internal struggle there on the defensive coordinator side?
Well, I know externally it will. Because 49 fans, point the finger and be like, this guy needs to be in the booth, and this guy needs to be on the sideline, and this guy needs to be in the end zone, right? We know that's going to happen.
And we saw it happen. They put Steve Wilks on the field from external pressures, whether he loved it or not.
We're going to put poor Brandon Staley in his car in the parking lot.
Or Sorensen
Yeah.
in its car. in the
Yeah,
parking lot.
right.
And still
Or
get
some
something to
golf
Goodyear
cart,
blimp, right?
Yeah, but you hope internally that okay, we've been through enough coaches now. We know what we should be doing. Let's put our heads together and do this the right way. I don't think they'll panic and make big changes like Philly did,
Yeah.
where they demoted their guy and totally brought in a guy from the outside to try to run things. What a disaster that was. That's
Philly
Philly.
was like one more like thing away from putting Big Dom as the defensive coordinator.
Exactly, you know. He was next up in line. Or you was probably
They
talking to
literally blame the fall of
Nick, too.
that team on him getting banned from the sidelines. Like, how fragile of a team do you have to be to where
Mhm.
that guy has
Garbage.
to keep
That
your
is your-
shit together,
Yeah.
right?
Catalyst for
Give
your
me a
downfall.
break,
Right.
man.
Mm-hmm.
Get out
Terrible.
of here.
Exactly.
Yeah. But
And the
I'm
fact that
thinking,
he's with it, this is completely off topic. And the fact that he's with him at the
oh my God,
combine.
the combine everywhere. He's with him everywhere. Like, are you serious?
Are you that fragile? You that scared? Security.
Are you that
Yeah,
emotionally
right?
soft? You need your guy. Walk with me.
There's Dre Greenlaw. Oh my God.
Walk with me. It's unbelievable.
All right. Who do we got next as far as Kyle Shanahan goes? I forgot where we were at.
You, we
We're
all
talking
went.
about the defense coordinator
Mhm.
stuff.
Yeah, Becca, I see your point as far as, the other side of things. I know Nick Sorensen has only been around this team for 2 seasons. But you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And the fact that he knows these players, the players know him,
Mhm.
I think that goes a long way.
Mhm.
And, we obviously saw things last season that we hope we don't see this season.
Right.
So speaking that into the universe. But yeah, I think I'm most excited about KJ Wright, to be honest. Johnny Holland is a great linebackers coach. And to have KJ Wright behind him.
Yeah.
And I mean, KJ Wright was one of the best. And to have him coach Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, D Winters, Jalen Graham, and if we actually draft a linebacker as well, I'm excited for this. We can't really sit here and say it's a good hire, it's a bad hire, because we're not on the field yet.
Yeah.
All we
exactly.
could do is just say our opinions, what we're looking for, and go from there.
Yeah. But we see the potential of it,
Yeah.
Right.
right? That's the thing. We see the potential of how this could definitely be a great thing.
And the
if it all
success we've
pans
had
out.
in the past, our past success
Exactly.
is a predictor of future success, right? So,
Mhm.
we know we've had a history of promoting from within, and that's gone very well. We went outside and it didn't go as well as we would have liked, right? So now we're going back to the well, what worked. I mean, that's
Right.
usually what people do, right? So I see why we did it and I understand it. I just feel like we put the backstop there in case it falls flat. And I'm only concerned that we might be worried about our window of opportunity and maybe pull triggers sooner than maybe we should, or he's not going to get as long of a leash as maybe Saleh and D'Amico Ryans got, because we're feeling some pressure.
Well, I mean, there is a lot of pressure, 100% right on that, but I don't think he would be the next scapegoat in that scenario. Like, at the end of the day, if everything goes to hell in a handbasket next year, like, it is all, I don't know what happens at that point. Like, I don't know who the scapegoat becomes at that point. I don't think you can just slap it on you can't just slap it on the defense at that point. They can't just
everyone
be the ones that
loves
shuffle.
the scapegoat thing.
Yeah, they do. They love it, right? They absolutely love it. And that's why I love to use it, because they're like, that's right, it is. They scapegoated him. But like, anybody who's watched this team, like, in points, everything was solid, but it just seemed like something was missing all year long with this defense. And like, we all saw it. We saw it from this year. I don't think this defense was really as like I don't know, umphy. You know what I mean? Maybe is the word I'm looking for there. Is like even the 2021 team, right? Like that team was like a bunch of like snarling toothed badasses. And like this year it just didn't quite get there.
We
like it was
started, right? We started with that attitude.
They peaked at the Dallas game and it never really got better. Like
Philly.
I mean, I honestly feel
but even remember in the first quarter of that game, Philly was tearing us up.
the first half of that game was pretty sus.
And then,
First two drives, they moved the ball.
And then
6
they
points
turned it on. That was something that happened a lot this year that didn't happen previously. It was a lot of
I'll dispute you on that one.
It seemed like there was a lot more. It seemed like to me that there was a lot more this year of we got to make these second half adjustments, or we got to make these adjustments, or like
that's football, though.
It is
football.
Make adjustments.
Yeah,
you always have to make adjustments, but it just seemed to me like they were. Did it ever seem like that defense was ahead this year at times? It felt like they were like, okay, let's go out and see what happens. And it felt like after week 1 in Pittsburgh, that was like, let's go. You know what I mean? That was the first game. I was like, all right, this defense is where it's at.
Whatever, 4, 5, 6 games, we were 6-0. We dominated lights out. And then we lost those 3 in a row and we never came back from that. And we struggled with the defense after we had the 3-game losing streak. And I think that's when Steve Wilks was finally given the reins to start to implement his system and take over that whole how things were. We operated on the last year model for the early games of the year till he got acclimated with everything. And when he started to try and implement his game plan and his system, that's when the disconnect started. You started to see this sharp decline in the defense, right? And it never recovered. These guys struggled the rest of the season. So I don't know what it was, but I do feel like we started out really playing our style defense. Smash mouth, dominating. No one could do anything against us. And then this terrific cliff drop off. We jumped off the edge.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And that clearly.
And I feel like that's what we're trying to go backwards to. You see the hires and the models that they come from is let's go back to what worked. Let's go back to this nucleus, this core part of our defense that was successful and worked really well for us, that these guys all know, understand, and love playing in. This system is what we want to get back to.
We are 28 strong on this stream.
Oh, wow.
If you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe. And we're just chatting a little bit about our newest hires, Nick Sorensen, Brandon Staley, and KJ Wright. Let's talk a little free agency. We're exactly 1 week away from it. Yesterday was the franchise tag deadline. No franchise tag for the 49ers. Not surprising. Who would you like to see them sign next week? That one splash signing. Who would you like to say?
Chris Jones, so he can stop stealing our lunch money in Super Bowls. Thank you.
Or a right guard who knows I need to stand in front of Chris Jones so he doesn't steal our lunch money. It's not just the Super Bowl either. It was the 2 regular season games we played against them as well.
And the previous Super Bowl.
I digress.
Yeah.
Well, Ty,
Well,
what if they re-sign Feliciano?
See, I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah.
I honestly wouldn't, because I thought he started to play well, started to get into a rhythm toward the end of the season, and he was okay there. They stopped with the flip-flopping of him and Spencer Burford, and just left him out there. And I thought he started to play well, so I don't mind that. If that's the signing, I'm good.
Okay. I'm, a lot of people, and there's still 50 days to talk about the draft. 50 days from today is the draft. you know, a lot of people talk about us with pick number 31 going for an offensive lineman.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I just don't see it. But I would be okay with having Feliciano back, provided he doesn't, you know, point any more fingers.
Yeah. Stop
Exactly.
with the,
Like, dude, get with the culture. That's not what we do here.
Protect
Um,
the team.
the one and only, right? The one and only finger pointing episode we had, which is very telling about the culture in the locker room.
Yeah.
Everybody is in love fest. They love playing with each other. They work hard. They feed off of that energy. And to have this happen, I felt so bad for Spencer. I really did.
I did too, because
Yeah.
Spencer's good people, not because he's been on the show, but because he's
Because
just
No, he's good people. Like, if you meet
he
him,
is very good
Good
people.
he's
story.
good people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just, I know you've met him. I've met him. Like,
Yeah.
he's just good people.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
you
And
feel
it's,
for him.
unfortunate that he let his emotions get in the way. And, you know, he did apologize. And I hope that's a learning lesson. And he
Exactly.
dials that back. If he comes back, he knows he has to rein that stuff in. He can't be doing that.
Yeah.
It's not acceptable in this particular organization. So hopefully that, but I mean, I don't see us signing someone off the street in free agency to fill that hole. We're going to draft.
There are
I don't think so
not.
either.
There aren't a lot of good. This is one of the weaker offensive
Well,
line free agent classes ever.
yes,
and
that's another point.
That is the hilarity that I have seen this week so far. Oh, we're going to build through the draft with offensive line and wide receiver. With who? Who are you spending money on? I'm not worried about you. If you're spending money on this free agent class for the offensive line and the wide receivers, you are out of your mind.
We're paying.
Yeah.
There is, it is all just a massive overpayment. I would be doing everything I can to be getting into this draft because wide receivers and offensive linemen are where it is at in this
Yep.
draft.
Just
Wide
deep.
So
receiver
I don't know
one.
what anyone is doing around here. People keep talking up here for an example, and I feel like I've shuttled back into the past 3 years. But where the Patriots are selected at 3, they're like, oh, they got to draft this quarterback. They got to draft that quarterback. I would trade for Justin Fields and draft Marvin Harrison in the second. Like, what are you doing?
Give him a weapon.
Why are you going to draft a project quarterback? And what are you going to do? You know, like, what else are you going to do? You know what I mean? Like that, you have so much other stuff to do. Like, you've already burned through a young quarterback with terrible stability and doing the Alex Smith rule, 3 different coordinators in 3 years, right? Like we've already seen firsthand how that goes, no matter who the quarterback is.
Mhm.
So,
And Alex went
That
through like
is-
9.
Yeah.
he went through,
Wrong
he
one
went
in
through,
three.
in his first 6 years, he went through 6, right?
Yeah.
I can't remember how that worked. It was absolutely
And-
absolutely rotten.
And real quick to your point about drafting like Harrison, a receiver, Alex
Yeah.
Smith went through like 22 receivers.
Yeah.
Right.
We had a
Already.
revolving door at wide receiver when he was first in there. He could never build continuity. But yeah, sorry, Alex.
Yeah.
We
100%.
put
Hate that.
things.
Love you and hate it all at the same time, as much
Like-
as you did.
And he
And
never
I've already-
complained.
He didn't.
Yeah. I mean, your free agent jewel of this class, if you want to look on the wide receiver spot, is Calvin Ridley, right? Because he's not
Yep.
tagged. But you know, he already, you know, even before the gambling thing, he missed a year because of like emotional mental health things or whatever. Like, that shit scares me. Like, you want to drop a whole bunch of money on something like that if I'm owning a
Mhm.
team? Like, I'm worried at that point. Like, I'm going to give this guy a bunch of money and then he's going to step away. And what am I going to do? Be a bad guy in the press? Be like, boy, that guy really shouldn't step away, right? Of course you're going to say all the right things. Like, you got no choice at that point. So it's a wild year for free agency. There's going to be some people that make some money that really do not deserve it. It is.
And we see that
and
every
it's
year.
gonna- you see that every year, but I think this year is going to be like a little extra. Particularly, you have some teams now that had this, you know, all this cap space that, you know, magically appeared. You know, they're expecting 240 to 250. So they're going to be like, it's fine. Like, we get that extra cap space anyway. So they're going to justify it to themselves. But it's going to be bad. You know what I mean? There's going to be
Mhm.
some. I'm going to be real interested around the buyout market this year. because the contending teams are going to have people. It's becoming very much like the NBA. People sign for all these contracts in the off season, and then right about the trade deadline time, it's like, oh, you know what? You're not good. We're rebuilding, so we're going to cut you, and you can just go wherever the hell you want, and you still get the money. So be prepared, because you may have some more of that this year. You know, those Randy Gregory, Sebastian Joseph Day types. Hopefully, they produce a little more than Sebastian Joseph Day. Gregory kind of hit or miss there. He had some moments. Sebastian Joseph Day did
moments.
not. Yeah.
All right, so Maddie, you're Chris Jones. Becca, who do you got?
I mean, I don't know. I think Brian Burns would be the best possible option. We could, your guy would be the best possible option we could make a splash for in free agency at this point, unless we start to see other guys become available.
Yeah, he definitely was one of the ones that were that was tagged yesterday.
Oh, he was tagged. Yeah,
he was tagged. Yes. Mine would have to be Daniil Hunter.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the other rusher. Yep.
I would like to see them go out, because Chris Jones, I think he's going to get a lot of money from Kansas City.
Oh yeah, they're not letting him go.
They're not.
I think they would be dumb to let him go.
Exactly.
But you never know.
You're right.
Because, you know, they let Tyreek Hill go. Which,
hey, 49ers tried to get Spagnuolo when he wasn't under contract.
Right. So
Right?
you never know.
We were talking about the BC stuff earlier.
But they didn't let him go.
They did.
Yeah.
They did not let him go.
They're
trying to run it back. They want that. They want to do the 3 in a row thing.
They want to
like yet another thing we are all too familiar with. So go ahead and put your eggs in that basket, guys, because I know what's coming next. Have a good time. Enjoy.
Yeah, and they're losing quite a bit of players as well.
They're going to be losing a lot of players, and I'm telling you right now, Cincinnati is going to be Cincinnati's going to be a real problem in that conference next year.
Yeah.
Like Cincinnati's not going away. But look at what happened to Buffalo today. Buffalo lost. Like, goodbye. Thank you for playing secondary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They were.
P.S.
Buffalo was like, see ya.
P.S. If Tre'Davious White wants to come win a ring, like, I would totally be happy with him on the opposite side of Mooney Ward, so that Mohamed or Lenore can play nickel. And then I think our secondary is probably 94 level at that point. Like, that would be. Now there's
the bar.
There's a good call. I didn't see any of that.
Yeah, I get behind that. The fact that some are saying that we need to break up our core. Yes, Ty lowers his head.
For what reason? Do you not enjoy nice things?
Right.
Like what?
You know, I see a lot of we need to cut juice.
For what reason?
Why?
Why?
I don't know, because I just read like the thumbnail. And then I move on.
Keep it moving. Keep it moving. It's not worth your brain energy.
Right.
Well,
do not engage. What are
engage.
you reading? I'm genuinely concerned about what you're reading now.
Well, it's, and you know what? It's not on Twitter either. I've taken the left turn on YouTube.
Oh, the YouTube.
You've gone down that.
The YouTube.
Yeah,
can
so
be
I
worse.
have to straighten that out. But yeah, like to cut
more of a
juice,
southeasternly
juice is
turn.
an integral part of this offense.
Yeah.
No.
He's always there. He's like that charger next to your bed that like is always there. Like nobody ever takes it out of the wall. You plug it in at night. You know that no matter what, you have juice right there at the end of the day, right? Like that is who he is. Like how he was a part of many an off-script play this year. People seem to forget
always
that,
is.
right? And is always a part of that. And that's not something a lot of other teams have, right? They don't have a fullback that can do like tight endy sort of things out in the whatever, right? Like that's just, he is a luxury that other teams would kill to have, but they just don't have the offense set up for it. I want to see him used more, to be quite honest with you. Like halfback passes. Remember that nasty ass option they ran in 2017 with him where he ran that halfback option where they handed it off to him and he kind of tossed it. Like, let's go. Let's get everybody going. You know what I mean? Let's roll with it. Like, we have so many athletes in that backfield touching that ball, whether it's Brock Purdy, who is a good athlete, underrated athlete, Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Kyle Juszczyk, hell, even George Kittle. Any one of them at any point in time can toss the ball backwards, throw the ball forward, shovel it forwards, catch it, run with it, basically do whatever. There are so many things they could be doing. Like, this is it. This is the year that's what I'm concerned about. If you're going to go all in this year, let's go all in with the plays. Let's unleash the beast, right? Like, let's do it.
But to your point,
That's
with
what I want to see.
The fullback is a core piece of the West Coast offense. Like, that is a very complementary, necessary, vital role.
No.
And you're not going to find a better dude out there to play this freaking
Hi,
spot.
I'm
He's the
Earth.
best.
Have we met?
And he's
Yeah.
he's healthy. He's in good shape. I don't get it.
Yeah.
The
so
fact that
amazing.
David McNiner's comment there, would save 4.9 million in cap space, is it really worth it?
No, it's done.
Come on
There's
now.
not much in the additional cap they added. Like, more than that to cover Juice.
that $5 million ain't making a dent anywhere.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing.
Exactly.
But hold on. This goes back to earlier in the season, Jess, where you asked the question and you saw it floating around. Like, do we need Armstead and Juice? I think it was around a Jacksonville game. We
I
had
think
this
so,
discussion.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. And like, people just don't see his total value. They only see he's not getting the ball. All he does is block. Why do we have to pay for that? Right. And not seeing that the blocking one is integral to our system. We've seen how the run game has been affected when he was injured and not in there. Right. It's not the same.
And the
But
passing game, for that matter.
When he's out in the passing game and he's used, as Matt said, when he's out there, he's highly effective.
Yep.
It's just that, unfortunately, our offense, he's the number 6 option
Right.
in the passing game at times. I would love for him to be number 1 at times. Trust me. 'Cause
No,
he's
Steve-O.
dynamic. Right? He's dynamic. Oh, Lord.
I'm
Steve-O,
sorry.
whatever you
I lost
do,
it.
put
We'll
it down.
seeing that in the comments.
Just put it down. Yeah.
No,
But
Steve-O.
Juice does a lot of things without the ball. When others has the ball, that helps our offense greatly.
Exactly. Because
And
someone's
people
got to
don't
cover
see
him.
that. They don't see that at all.
Yeah.
And you really should take a look at what he's doing on the field, because he is integral to the offense.
Makes a huge difference.
Yeah, even
Worth every penny.
one of those last resorts for Brock. He has the hands,
The safety
like,
valve,
he's-
yeah.
right. Like, he's one of the best pass catchers on the team.
And
Yeah.
you see, whenever he gets the ball, what do we all do? We're all jumping up. We're all going crazy. It's like,
Down.
yes.
It's a big play. It always is.
Yeah.
He's got great hands. He's great. He's part of the disguise, the cover that we run. And when his number is called, he gets open, or Brock's in a jam. He's always finds a way to get open and make himself available. And inevitably, he makes the big play every time the ball's in his hands.
And you know what, too? Like, we saw a lot of that this year, and even the prior season, like with Brock, and the receivers trying to get open. I feel like with Jimmy, like, everyone just kind of gave up.
He's not an off-script guy.
Yeah.
If he's going off script, he's going to get hurt, or somebody, or the ball's going to get turned
He's
over.
throwing an interception, throwing
Like
it away, and
that-
getting hurt.
Bingo.
He's an in-rhythm quarterback. 3, 5, 7 steps, get it out of there.
Yeah.
Like,
And he
and,
wanted to
and
get
for
it out
some
quick.
reason, he had in his mind for the longest time, like, oh, don't program me, don't do this, don't do that. I want to sling it. I want to sling it. I want to sling it. That's not what you do, dude. Because every time you're put in a position where you have to sling it, like,
0 for 2 tonight, Steve-O.
you got nothing over there.
I'm like,
What let me jump on what
You
Steve-O
drinking
says here.
Thunderbird or something? You got to put that down.
What is going on?
Put the
Like,
mad
yeah.
dog down.
That's right. You got to put
Put the Mad
You
Dog
drinking-
2020 away, sir.
You drinking old English 40 ounces? Like, put it down.
Yeah.
Something's
What is-
wrong.
Shoo, it's getting to your brain.
Did-
I don't like
Did
it.
you get that Colt 45 directly from the Billy D. Williams personal
You know?
collection? Or like, how did that
Steve-O is
go?
Brandon from last week. Brandon with all his suggestions that we just kept shooting down. That's Steve-O
Yeah.
this week. Hi, Brandon. How are you?
Let's jump to that one. Can we jump to that one next? Backup quarterback. What do you guys want behind Brock Purdy next year? Because it's looking more and more like Sam Darnold's not going to be back next year. Do you want another project? Do you want another reclamation project to kind of get them going, like a Zach Wilson or somebody like that? Or
Jess is
do
like,
you
ooh,
wanna
pick me.
do a Brandon Allen deal? Or
She's
what do you
got
want
the
to do,
answer.
Jess?
She's got the
I
answer.
actually think that Sam Darnold is back because
Mm.
Kyle Shanahan really likes Sam Darnold. And I feel they did a lot to bring him to San Francisco.
That's how I feel. I think Sam is not going anywhere.
Plus, I don't
I would
see-
be shocked if he went somewhere else.
Yeah,
I
I don't see any other teams clamoring for him
Yeah.
either.
I don't think there's going to be a clamor so much, but I think there's going to be a lot of what do we want to call it? Movement
Facts, Michael.
of the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And they're going to want to get people that know their system. And he does happen to know a few systems. And this system is one that people tend to want. So that might up them a little bit. It might not be an us thing. Like, I think there's probably a number in their head where they're like, okay, this is the number. This is where we're at. And that's it. And it's very possible somebody's going to come in over that.
Yeah.
So that's
Of
that's
course.
why I'm looking at that. And I just, the way the market's trending, like, I think there's going to be a shuffle. So that's why I was wondering. Do I care either way? I figured Kyle got Nick Mullins, somewhat competent, right? Like I figure anybody for a game or two can do whatever. You can scheme things up, make things happen. But I'd like to see the plan on that. If there is a plan. If not, they run it back this year. Great. Same QB run.
Oh,
Yay.
well.
You know what I mean? So
No 49er quarterback is getting hurt next season,
Yes.
just
Right.
like last
Say it
season.
again, Todd.
So
Say it again.
Shake the dirt. Shake
doesn't
the
matter
dirt.
what we got.
I'm like,
Doesn't
the
matter
dirt,
what we
the
got.
dirt,
Who,
Where's
who
the
the
dirt?
backup
the dirt,
is,
the dirt.
because
Where's that
QB1
dirt?
is not leaving the field.
all
I'll
right.
Here
shake
we
it when
go.
I get upstairs.
It's going to be like a Doug Peterson situation. You can just make Brandon Allen the backup, and cool, right? Like
That's
same
right.
deal.
He
You
never
just
sees
know
the
he's gonna
field,
be
and it's
there.
all good.
All right, good.
Shout out to the chat. You guys are great. If you haven't
Poppin'.
already, please like and subscribe. We were talking about keeping the core players together because people want to cut juice. People also would like to release Eric Armstead or trade him.
We're also
we
trading
seem
one
to
of our
be
wide
pairing
receivers.
these two guys together again. Like Ty,
Yeah.
you had mentioned that I mentioned around the Jacksonville game
Mhm.
about these two, and here we are again. We're talking about them again. They are vital to this team, Faithful.
Did you
You know,
guys see
Eric-
the run defense after Eric Armstead got hurt? By the way, did anyone? I know you guys did. Did anyone else out there see this run defense after Eric
Thank you.
Armstead got hurt?
Mhm.
Because it was hot garbage on a platter after Eric Armstead got hurt. Okay.
It was.
There's two big keys on this defense this year.
It was a
The
dumpster
Hufanga
fire.
injury and the Eric Armstead injury. Okay, Armstead did come back, but he still he was playing with a torn meniscus
Yeah.
or something like
Yeah,
that.
torn
Yeah.
meniscus.
Yeah.
Insane. That is insane. No wonder
That's
he
crazy.
wasn't playing for the rest of the regular season.
That is crazy.
But he was still playing injured when he came back and needed.
hmm
Yeah.
And it made a difference. That's why the toss plays were so effective, because he wasn't able to move left to right. It all makes sense now.
Well, you couldn't run up the middle, right?
Right.
So where
Exactly.
what did
Working-
they attack? Well, let's go outside.
About that.
We know we can't get past him. Let's go
Mhm.
that way.
And now we can really get past him because there's no way he's gonna, even make a
Mhm.
Superman play. So
Yeah, but Jess, after the Super Bowl, we saw the complete meltdown, and we kind of talked about it. We got to trade Kittle. He's getting older. Oh, we there's no way we can have two good wide receivers.
Right.
So
What's
which one
the
are we
point in
trading? Is it
that?
1 week we're trading Debo, the next week we're trading Ayuk.
Yeah, actually, this week is actually trading Debo. That was another
Yeah.
thumbnail
Oh,
that
yeah.
I read.
You see what I'm saying? It's like,
Why can't we have Duper and Clayton at the same time? Stop it.
yeah.
Shut
Why
your
can't
mouth.
we
This
have
is it
Taylor and Rice?
Right,
Why
right,
can't
Taylor and Rice.
we have two nice things?
Right.
Why
At the
can't we
same
have
time.
two good chairs? We can only have one.
It has to be trauma in these people's lives where they want to control like when it ends as opposed to waiting for it to end. That has to be it. Because here's the thing. 2025 is the year, okay? 2025 is the modern day 1994. It has to happen this year. There's
Yep.
no choice. It either happens this year or the Brock Purdy era is upon us and shit is gonna change quick, okay? And some of these guys are going to get cut and shuffled and moved, and things are going to happen because you're going to have to pay that boy
You're gonna
next
have
year.
to pay him.
Just how it goes. That's how it goes. But you're not breaking that up now when you don't have to. Okay, you're not. We've seen that episode before. Remember when they did that with DeForest Buckner? They traded DeForest
Yeah.
Buckner so they could trade Jimmy Ward. Do you think if they had it to do all over again, they would keep DeForest Buckner? I do.
Yeah.
I think they keep DeForest Buckner and then go out and find another safety some other damn place, right?
Yep.
But
I think that's probably how that would work.
But that's done with, and people still actually bring that up.
But this is,
And here,
but that was when they made that mistake the first
Right.
time, and people now are like trying to sniff out the next one, and I don't make sense. Like,
And-
go back to that one. That didn't work. Why do you
Right.
want to do
Why
that
do you want
again?
Do that
That's
again.
the key point. I think, especially from these quote unquote insiders who come up with this stuff. When the Buckner thing went down, no one saw it coming. No one had a clue. It was totally like, bam, whoa, what happened?
Right.
So now every year we've had one of these guys come up and they're in the final year of their contract. They need an extension, right? So now everyone's like, oh, well, if he doesn't get an extension, there's a 50-50 chance he can be traded. And they're all trying to be right and say this stuff because we're not leaking any information. That's why every year you hear the same narrative, whether it's Warner, Kittle, Bosa, Debo, now Ayuk.
Mhm.
Oh, they're trying to work out an extension, but if they don't get an extension, there's a chance he could be traded.
Well, that's so they can go, see, I told you I was right.
Exactly.
Mhm.
As I reported here first.
It's
on
all
blah, blah, blah,
clicks.
blah
It's all
network.
clickbait. Yeah.
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 Michael says they extended most of the core already. They would take big cap hits if they traded or cut
Yeah.
most of these guys. Next year, when Brock gets paid, is when they will have to choose.
100%.
But
And I expect
next
some
year, there are a lot of
extensions and
salaries that come down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's very
a lot
true.
of guys are ballooned this year, and
Yeah.
next year, a lot of those salaries come down. So Parag and those guys got some work to do, of course.
Yep.
But
Good
it's
point,
not as
Ty.
it's not as dramatic as people make it out to be.
Well, I
Of
think
course,
you're
some
absolutely
decisions will
right.
be made, but yeah, we don't have to break up the entire core to keep this thing going.
We don't have to do a complete fire sale, people.
Exactly.
We don't
And
have to
that's how
look at the
people are
Beatles
reacting.
and be like, listen, McCartney, it's you. That's it.
Yeah,
Everyone else is done.
yeah.
Okay.
Everybody else, deuces.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
that's the way everyone's trying to do this. Or so. Look,
Yeah.
Paul, it's all you. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. You're the Beatles. You're the Beatle. Okay?
You're it.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Brock, it's you. You know what I mean? You can see, like, I can just see the memes now. Brock Purdy is like the Fresh Prince standing in the empty room, looking around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where
Oh,
do we
yeah. You know
go?
it's
No
coming.
one to throw to.
Somebody's waiting to do that.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's coming.
If you don't think they haven't already thought about Brock's salary and when it's going to hit and when they need to restructure
Of
and all the
course, this-
restructuring they've done with Kittle and Christian
They
McCaffrey
absolutely
and these
have.
guys, they absolutely have. They're 10 steps ahead of anything anyone else is thinking about right now in terms of those contracts. They know exactly what they're doing. So they're planning. They're already looking out the 4 or 5. They've got the 5-year plan in their head and structuring it accordingly. So yeah, we don't need to cut anybody. We don't need to trade, fire sale, do any of those things. Why can't we keep all of our key players that have been vital to our success? We can, and we will. And and we'll make the moves that are necessary to enhance that. At least the ones we believe are going to enhance that.
The difference is some people think different people are key, right? I'm sure. Remember 2 years ago? Oh, we have to re-sign Laken Tomlinson. If we don't re-sign Laken Tomlinson, this entire line is going to fall apart, right?
Yep.
Now, in fairness, nobody said that about Mike McGlinchey, but we all knew that Mike McGlinchey was going to sign for a butt
We
ton
knew he was
of
going to get a
money,
boatload of
right?
money. Yeah. More
he
than
was
we
gonna
wanted
go
to
do-
pay.
He was going to do large mime in a box in another city, and he went to go do that. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Just it was a large refrigerator box. It was just, he went in. You know what I mean? Maybe a stove or something. Stove's a little wider. But, you know, it's just, you see that every year. That's going to happen. So some of these guys are gonna head out. Isaiah Oliver, like, okay, he was another one. Like, he just came, literally, like, that dude came in because, like, he was Steve Wilkes' boy, and they're like, you're out. So that whole scenario was like, thanks
like
for playing
that.
and good day. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I'm excited for this team to have a first round pick this year. You know what I mean? It's been so long.
Which
feel
they're
like that
going
old woman at the end of
to
Titanic,
spend
you
that
know?
pick on a defensive lineman, FYI.
Maybe.
And
This is a really good wide receiver. This is a really good wide receiver draft. What if they decide to go wide receiver? I think they're going to go wide receiver at that slot. To be honest with you, because
I feel the same way. Class.
Someone's getting picked next year, right? Someone gets the rose. Debo's getting the rose, or Ayuk's getting the rose after next year. I'm not talking about this year. After next year. So they're going to tip their hand a little bit in this draft in terms of like where they're taking and where they're picking. But this is a big and really deep wide receiver draft. So I could see them drafting a wide receiver right at that point. And who knows, maybe that allows Ronnie Bell to, like, you know, be the guy to replace Ray McLeod, right? Because that special teams, once again, needs some sort of something.
We actually, David, to your comment, we actually need defensive linemen. We don't have any depth at the current.
Yeah,
we
our
have
depth is
Robert
lower.
Beal Jr. We have Kalia Davis.
He's coming back from IR any day now. Any day.
Yeah.
He's going to be activated.
You know, we need
Jackson,
defensive
we're
linemen,
low.
and I think that's actually more of a concern than the offensive line, to be honest.
The only thing that worries me on the O-line is Trent Williams' future replacement. So what I would like to see is them draft someone who they can redshirt like we normally do. Hey, go work out with Trent. You're going to just shadow him, right? And when he decides to hang it up, maybe that person is ready to step in after having, you know, some years of training under his belt. That's my only concern with O-line right now.
Yeah.
But you usually get those guys in the later rounds, right? Like, they're not first 3 rounders. You don't pick those guys early. So I think we will pick some O-linemen in the later rounds with later picks, but with the big ones in the early rounds, I don't think we're picking O-line.
I had mentioned this last week to Michael Diaz's comment about, you know, the debate is why pay 2 wide receivers over $50 million when they don't pass a lot.
We don't use our wide receivers like other teams do. That's really the biggest key there. You know what I mean? Devo's not your typical wide receiver. He's not.
I tell you what.
Our players are worth more to us than they are to anybody else. The only reason anybody else pays them more is to get them to leave, right? That's it. That's really what it boils down to, because nobody else has built up a structure or a system that is similar or the same. How many guys have really left here and like gone on and just blown up somewhere else, right? Just been like, wow, I can't believe the 49ers ever got rid of him. Like, what? Unbelievable. I haven't seen it in this. You've had a few, like Kendrick Bourne had a few good games with the Patriots, and like
guys have played well.
Mostert being healthy's had some good seasons in Miami.
Exactly. Like DJ Jones did well in Denver. There's some guys who have played well. Like Aziz Al-Shaair did very well in Tennessee this year.
I definitely want to see him back.
I
But
would
no
love it.
one crazy. Like to your point, Matt.
Nothing that's like, wow, I can't believe that they,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
Look
man,
what
I
we
can't
let
believe
go.
that
I
guy
mean,
got out of
DeForest Buckner, I feel like is probably one of the biggest ones
Buckner.
that got away.
And
Buckner played
it's
well.
He's
funny.
a skill
In
player.
the last in the last couple of years, he hasn't really he's definitely reached his peak. You know what I mean? There is no there's nowhere left to climb in that scenario. You know what I mean? So their system is kind of conducive to things. So I think it's kind of up to the guys. Like, do I have to go somewhere, or is there something that I can do comparable here and still actually get to play and do more, because this place is going to value you more. And to kind of go back to a point that you were making a little bit earlier, Becca, about how they're a step ahead. That's why this extra cap space is so important to this team, right? It's found money for them. That was money that was completely unaccounted for. So now, all of a sudden they're like, whoa, we've got 13 and a half, 14 and a half, 50, whatever it is. I've got this extra money that we were not accounting for. Guess what we can do now, right?
We can keep juice and not have to worry about cutting some.
We can go get, Tre'Davious White. We can go make a run at, L'Jarius Sneed. We're not going to do that. But we can go do one of those things and whip it out. You know what I mean? You could make that run for Brian Burns now, because Carolina's finally ready to trade him. Bunch of morons. They're not going to get nearly as much for him now as they would have if they'd done it at the trade deadline last year. But that's why shitty franchises are going to shitty franchise.
Exactly.
So, that's just what losing franchises do. Keep pounding, Carolina.
So how about them Niners is low-key hoping for the best edge available at 31. The O-line class is unusually deep, but he'd also be happy with the best right tackle available at 31, and edge like a Kamara or Ellis in the third.
Wait, hold on. Real quick on the 2 wide receiver thing.
Sure.
One, we pass more than you think.
True.
And go back to those games where we put the ball in Brock's hands and people were like, we got to run the ball more. We got to run the ball. We're passing the ball for a reason. We got a competent QB and 2 great wide receivers.
How many people had 1,000-yard?
Yeah, exactly.
But we don't pass, and we don't need receivers to make $50 million combined.
Yeah, we passed the ball more than you think. And I tell you what, in those 2 playoff games, when we were behind, guess what? People were happy we had 2 good wide receivers out there to catch the ball those games. And a third in Jawan Jennings, who was out there making plays. So
we also need to bring back.
Yeah, those receivers are valuable. Now back to that question.
Yeah.
Pound
it.
Yeah, he's
I'm happy with whatever they get.
The best edge.
What I'm happy with whatever they decide to take, because they're going to think that player is the best one on their board at that position, right?
Yeah.
And they're going to know more about this draft than I am, no matter what I do, no matter what I watch, because at the end of the day, no matter what, if we do mock drafts, there's always going to be that silent bias. Like if we get to the 5th round and Frank Gore's kid is there, guess what? We're drafting Frank Gore's kid.
Jerry Rice kid.
If we get to the 3rd round and there's Brendan Rice, Luke McCaffrey, yeah, we're just going to draft everybody's little brother.
We're going to draft with our heart, not our head.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Every single time.
It's going to look like my fantasy football lineup.
Yeah.
Get them. Why not? They address a need.
Right.
And if they, and if
that's our
how the board
legacy
goes, if that's how the board shakes out, that is how the board shakes out, right? But
I wouldn't mind.
There were a ton of defensive linemen and edge rushers at the draft, right? But I could totally see the kid from Missouri. I really want. I think that's the dude that would be. He would be all right. I can't remember his name for the life of me, but I was really impressed with him. There's also a kid from UCLA that was really good too.
Are you talking about defensive end?
Defensive end, yeah. Edge. So
Darius Robinson from Missouri?
Yeah, Darius Robinson from Missouri, and then the kid from UCLA, I cannot remember his name for the life of me. He's very much like Jalen Phillips. Kind of
I don't have his name.
Same vibes for him. he would be. I think you can probably get him maybe second, third round. He'd be decent. Robinson, you could probably get later. That Chop kid from Penn State, that's another one.
Mhm.
People think that you can get him late. Anybody that's named after a pork chop is like number one in my heart.
That's
right?
just a football name. That's just a
If you're
football
named
name.
Gosh,
Right?
after
I like
any-
it.
love for the pork chop,
Yeah.
baby.
I mean,
You named after
honestly,
some meat.
I am sad as hell that John Madden will not be alive to call a game for Chop Robinson because
For
he'd be
Chop
like,
Robinson.
Pat, Chop Robinson originally
Mhm.
was Pork Chop Robinson, but he didn't want to
Yeah.
be called Pork Chop because he was just tough and not fat. So he just named it Chop.
That's right. He,
But,
he shortened it to
That's
chop.
all Madden to me, Pat. That's right. Third
I'm
and
telling
10
you,
from the Dallas
listening to
11.
him
Yeah, same deal.
Call games with Bubba Paris used to just make my heart swell. He loved big old Bubba Paris,
Mhm.
and listening to him call those games was amazing.
Talking about Bubba Paris's weight
Oh.
and diet. Oh my God.
Mhm.
Bubba Paris was like the original person who was body shamed. Him and Fridge Perry, man.
Yeah.
So, what do you guys think of this? Chargers reporter Daniel Popper wouldn't rule out the Bosa brothers joining forces for the 49ers.
I
think
will
it's-
do anything it can take to get Nick Bosa to like be the guy, right? That if that helps, great. If Joey can stay healthy, cool. If he only shows up to get paid what he thinks he's going to get paid, then probably not. So that's my thoughts on it.
What do you think, Becca?
Well, I just think that, I mean, if it makes sense and we think we're going to get production out of him, I have no problem with it. Let them ball together. Let them have a season and feed off of one another. But you're absolutely right, Matt. My concern is his health. He always seems to get hurt. And I don't know if that's a product of, the Christian McCaffrey, right, phenom, where he's the only tool in the toolbox. So he's overworked and tends to be, fragile because of that. Or is it just his propensity for getting hurt? I haven't watched Joey Bosa's complement of tape to know that. But if it makes sense, great. If it doesn't, we're not going to make the front office is not going to make these emotional decisions. We are not going to have Christian McCaffrey's brother, Frank Gore's son, Jerry Rice's son, and Joey Bosa on the team because we like them and we want their kids to succeed. They're going to make the best decisions without those emotional attachments. But, hey, look, if it makes sense and he comes cheap enough and we can, it adds value, so be it. Go for it. Mama Bosa's
Yeah.
going to have a great time with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like, I don't think it'd be a detriment. I
Right.
think it'd be
Mhm.
a good thing.
Mhm.
It's just a matter of the economics of it. I'm sure they'll be more than ecstatic to be lining up, opposite each other, having fun out there, being bros. It'd be great. And I'm sure they would tear it up. But it comes down to the economics,
And value add.
Would he take X amount of money? Because
Mhm.
that's all we can afford, because we got to pay all these other people and fill out the roster. Like our D line is still need depth. Like,
Mhm.
would you come and pay for that? Would you take an incentive lace deal since you've been injured so much?
Right.
That's all things that play out. But John Lynch, you can never have enough edge rushers. So I'm sure he'll inquire and see what's going on. But you never know.
Joey
Yeah,
Bosa or
or,
Chase Young, guys?
1 year prove it deal.
Ooh,
Yeah.
did you hear Matt?
Yeah, I mean, you
Did
really have
say
to
Joey
decide. If
Bosa or
Joey
Chase
Bosa,
Young? Is that what you
Yeah.
I
said?
can't imagine you're going to get both.
No.
You're not.
Yeah.
That's tough. Sort of.
Yeah. They both have their pros and cons, right?
Yeah, that's why. Yeah.
So it's like,
Mm.
And Bosa's going into his 9th year in the league, so he might be at a point where he's like, okay, you know what, I'll take a little. And it has been told, not just publicly, but I know it's been told to us firsthand, to some of us firsthand here in our Brady Bunch squares. The Bosa family is well aware of how well Nick has it, as opposed to how well Joey has it, based on the two franchises that they have both respectively worked for, right? And they both work in the same state, so there's a lot of things that you can compare and contrast with, because you're going to have very similar laws, et cetera,
Right.
So he may want a little bit of that 49ers whatever, and he may take a little less. So at that point, you know, a motivated guy like that coming in to be part of a rotation, you know, it's going to depend. Maybe him and Chase Young come in to be part of the rotation, but I expect Drake Jackson to be back this year and play a full season. And he was actually trending pretty decently right up until the point his shit blew out last year. So, you know, hit a rookie wall the year before and his shit blew out last year. So this year he kind of gets it together. So he's going to be a part of that rotation. And hopefully, you know, they're probably. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, I was going to say, hopefully, you know, we can go to Nick and say, hey, why don't you do a little in-house recruiting?
Yeah.
When you're on the boat fishing with your brother, talk it up.
Yeah,
like,
get
hey,
Young too.
Why don't you come play with me for a year? Maybe
Richard Dent and Ricky Jackson both signed in the same year. You know what I mean? You can never have enough pass rushers. Let's go.
We can win a ring together. It'd be great.
I don't think you have to talk it up brother to brother, because mommy knows. I mean, I was at the team hotel when Bosa's rookie year. All of the rookie parents were there, and every last one of them couldn't stop glowing. And, you know, Cheryl already had Joey in the league, and they couldn't stop glowing about all of the programs and things that the 49ers do for rookies and for the players to help set them up financially, to give them guidance, to get them physical, mental, and financial assistance. And they provide these programs. None of these other teams in the league apparently do that, or very few of them do. And the Niners are one of those few teams. And all of these rookie parents could not say enough good things about 49ers. And so I don't think, you know, Nick has to sell it to Joey, because he knows from his parents and probably what he sees with his brother that it's a great place to be. And this is why you see everybody who leaves want to circle back and be part of this organization again, because it is a very pro people personnel organization. I don't think you have to sell it. I think it just comes down to, will he add value, and can we make the numbers work? So if we get Joey and it works out and he's healthy, great. You're absolutely right. Put him in rotation. If he earns it and he's healthy and he can get in there and it's his spot, then we've got trade capital, right? With Drake Jackson or Chase Young and others. So, you know, we'll see what happens, but they're not going to do it on an emotional deal, because it's Joey and we need to bring Nick's brother here. Just like I said with the other, everyone's children now. We're not going to do those things.
Everyone's children.
Everyone's children.
Seems like everyone's children coming up.
Siblings, children. It's just not going to happen on an emotional level. They're going to make smart, unemotional, intelligent decisions about what the team needs, rather than what feels good. You know?
All right. And we will be talking about this so much more next week, next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, when free agency is actually in full swing. It'll be, I believe it starts 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. Next Wednesday. With that being said, let's go to our hurry up offense and the 2-minute warning. And Maddie, we're starting with you.
Darth Vader.
I renewed my season tickets last week, and let me tell you guys.
All right.
Wow.
Awesome.
There's 10 games next season, including the 1 preseason game that we get, but there's also 9 regular season games. Okay. That includes a home game with the Kansas City Chiefs. So make sure you want to be there. And if you do decide to go this year, come find me first. So that's what we've got for you.
Yeah, Ty.
Yes. And I would like to informally say that I formally think that the informal meetings that took place will have some formal ramifications to our draft class. Those seem to be the two. Those seem to be the two buzzwords from the combine. Informal, 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 informal. The buzzwords just surprise me, people. You got to laugh at some of the stuff that happens in the off season. You just do, or else you will go insane. And we're not breaking up the core. That's all I got.
Yeah, Becca.
Yeah, I will formally say we're not breaking up the core.
There you go.
And informally say that you're absolutely right, Ty. There will be formal ramifications from the combine and the draft. And with that, just go Niners. You know, it's going to continue to unfold as free agency gets rocking and rolling soon and the draft starts to happen and the schedule drops. We've got a lot of exciting weeks ahead of us. So good stuff. Go Niners.
We are not trading or cutting any of the core. Faithful, enjoy this. Next week is free agency. We are here. And as always, shout out to the chat. You guys were great. 33 strong right now. Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome.
Come back next week. Like I said, we'll be in full swing with free agency. As always, go Niners.
Absolutely.
Bang, bang.
And of course, for the upstart 49ers, they're 6 yards away from Pontiac. 3rd and 3.
We'll see a pickup sometime on the right side, possibly.
Montana looking, throwing in the end zone.